Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. My name is Zach and today we are going to be starting a new line of dolls. And these dolls are going to be called CovenGirlz. Now, this first character, Shaina, this is what the story is going to revolve around. CovenGirlz is going to be, she's the main character. She kind of sets the story in motion and she gets introduced to all these characters, and by proxy, you will be introduced to all these characters. So I wanted to start with her. If you can't tell from the brand name that I'm coming up with, these girls are all going to be witches, and they're all going to be part of this big coven together, and they're basically going to fight evil with their powers. Sounds pretty easy, right? It sounds very basic. Like, that plot line has been done before to death. And, you know, I just love a good old trope sometimes, so I want to stick to this. I have easy reign to do whatever I want with that easy, basic plot line. Now, in the infancy of my idea, I knew I wanted like a good group of girls to start out with, so maybe like 5 or 6 characters. And each of them will have their own set of powers, very different from each other, physically and also personality-wise. I wanted them each to have like a dynamic relationship with each other. So that's what I was thinking about first. I was trying to come up with a good basic plot to set you up with this one character. You'll meet another character, another character, another character. Think of like Winx or Sailor Moon, very magical girl vibes, but this time straight up witchology. And long story short, to set up the story, Shaina moves to a new town. She has moved from school to school, town to town, so she's never really known something quite stable. So she keeps to herself. She doesn't really like talking to a lot of other people. She's very withheld, but also very congenial and very nice, and she knows how to have a conversation with people. She's very mature for her age. She's 18. She's just graduated high school and trying to transfer her way into a new college, which she does not happen to be very excited about because she doesn't know what she wants to do with her life. So, you know, the whole story is set up with her walking to the library where she usually spends a lot of her time alone, unfortunately. And then she stumbles upon this little alien character. Now, these little alien characters are very, very important because they are the ones who basically familiarize the prospective witch with the witch world. And that witch world is called Revera, and that's like a completely alternate dimension. And the only way you can get there is if you have this little companion or if you have special powers, which we will get to. So Shaina meets this little character. In this case, her name is Puri, and she's kind of like this little cat alien, and they find Revera together. And this kind of formula will be repeated for each character, probably not as in-depth because some of these characters will be met in the witch world by Shaina. So they'll have already had their journey of headed to this place. So she's late to all of this. She's learning about this at the very last possible minute. And that's by fate, of course. That's on purpose. So each character has their little own companion, and they're each a different specimen of alien. And same with the alien little things. Each character has their own appearance, and they're very different from each other. And that was something I wanted to highlight in this series, is that each character has a different face shape, different body shape, and different skin colors, different hair textures, you name it. I wanted each one to be completely different from each other. And once I've decided that, I knew that I wanted it to be a basic line of dolls, so that's their introductory look, and then a deluxe version, which is called Divination Celebration, and that's when, you know, kind of like Ever After High Throne coming vibes. It's kind of when they settle into becoming a full-fledged witch. It's very early on in the story, but it'll have some plot points and so on and so forth. Now, this one you see me designing right now is the basic version of Shaina. And as I've said before, Shaina, her personality is more withheld, and she kind of doesn't really open up until she knows it's safe to. So I wanted her design to be reflective of the preppy trends that you see from the early 2000s. That's another thing. This whole story takes place in the mid 2000s, so like 2006 or 7, maybe even 2008. So we're just coming upon the new ages of technology, but of course, the witch world is ahead of time. Maybe in a weird way, but we'll get there. Shaina, she's more of the preppy side of things, so I gave her a little sweater vest, a button-up classic shirt, some khaki skirt situation, and some tights and black Mary Janes, because that's very classic preppy to me. And of course, dress ties will be present in most of her designs. I just love that aesthetic. If you think about Frankenstein, but make it more fashion, that's where we're headed. Like very 2000s vibe Frankie. And her main design element that kick-started the whole thing when I was sketching her out, I kind of wish I recorded that part. But what kick-started this whole design was those big twists that you see in her hair. And I knew for the main character, I wanted a twist or a braid or some sort of protective hairstyle. And these twists, I think, will be so fun on a doll. And I just really think that they're so much fun. And they showcase kind of the fact that she cares about her resemblance every day. And she also knows how to have some fun. So this is a great look for her, in my opinion. In my head, these specific drawings would be like the box art for them and like the art that would be on the website. And I have many ideas. Of course, none of them are realized yet, but you know, that comes with time, that comes with experience as well, which I have not a lot of either. So we're gonna start small here, right? We're gonna start with the drawings of each character, and we're gonna start with the comic book. And I do want to release the comics online, so it's easy for people to access. I was just thinking of releasing the first couple chapters on my Instagram, and I would also cover it on other social media platforms as well. I do have some reservations about how big the scope of this project could be. And I don't want to even overwhelm myself with that stuff yet. So that's why we're starting so small. So these character drawings for these two lines, they're little companions. And I have the first maybe half of the story written out so far. And we're going to start there. We're going to see where this thing goes. So yeah, Shaina kind of kickstarted this whole thing. Now around here is where you'll see me start to color in the little companion. Her name is Puri. And that's, of course, because she's a cat. And I know it's spelt weird, but that's because each little companion, they all kind of derive from the same place. And we'll get to that too. That's still in workshop as well. But each character that's like a little companion, they have like a very similar name. It sounds very similar to each other. So I thought that would be like a fun little trope to play on. It's very akin to like Precure, if you remember that show, like Pretty Cure. And like I mentioned before, you either get into Revra by having one of these little companions or by having the power of foresight. Now, thankfully, she had this companion, so she didn't really have to deal with the whole, oh my god, I have foresight. Like, no, she didn't have to deal with that until after she made it to Revra and started going to the academy with her friends. And that's when the shock came. I still need to figure that part out, not gonna lie. It's still in workshopping, you know, so we're figuring it out. And here is where you'll see me switch over from doing the basic version of Shaina to the divination celebration version of Shaina. Now these ones, I can more easily equate them to like Throne Coming or to Legacy Day from Ever After High. And the only reason why I equate that so heavily is because this is like their ultimate regalia form. Like, this is what they wear to the gala. This is what they show up in to show off their specialty and to show off their style and who they are. Like, this is the most important day of the school year, probably, for these characters. So I wanted it to be special for each character. And what sets these dolls apart from the basic ones is that they come in a full outfit that's very detailed, very deluxe feeling. They each come with a cape, they each come with a witch hat, because how can you have a witch doll line without witch hats? Like, come on, it's a no-brainer. So I thought this was like the perfect opportunity to have them have like the most ridiculous, the most extravagant outfits and witch hats ever. And the capes are no joke either. Like I wanted each aspect of their outfit to be total wow factor. And they all come with different hairstyles, you know, some changes to their hair colors in certain cases, and different makeup. And they each come with a broom and probably like an invite or something, like how they used to do back in the day. But who knows? I'm still thinking about that too. But I knew that I wanted them to come with their little broom and a handbag and a wand, as well as a wand holster. And that's going to be like a whole other production. So I thought it was very important for this to be the most extravagant line that I could think of, that like solidifies each character's aesthetic. And with Shaina specifically, we've seen this trope done before. It's very reminiscent of what Claudine was doing in Generation 1 and still in Generation 3. Shaina's wearing this 3-piece suit with a cape and this big witch hat with bows. And her whole thing is like bow ties and suit ties. And basically, we're still going with the preppy thing, but we're doing it more formal this time. Black tie formal, to be more specific. By the way, I know starting to design a doll line or like a line of characters, could be for anything, can be really, really tough because you want it to be a special idea that's unique to you, and you don't want to seem cliche either by just doing the same thing over and over again, which I totally get. But here's some advice that I think will help you ease your mind in starting this thing. You want to start by telling yourself that you don't have to reinvent the wheel. Like RuPaul says, the wheel is fine, the wheel is fine. You do not have to reinvent the wheel. Just do what you like, and I feel like that idea will come so much easier to you. Don't put so much pressure on yourself. You know, you just gotta do what you love. And once you have that down, start with a basic plot, like I said earlier. You just want to start with something that's maybe formulaic, but if you don't want to go formulaic, start with something very basic. And from there, I think it's going to be easier for you to like fall into place where you want characters, where what the characters go through and where they end up. And that's going to identify a lot of visual cues for you too, based on their personality and based on their hobbies and where they end up and where they've been. And of course, this is a lot of information to throw at people. I know it's a lot for me to even be thinking about and for me to be even saying in this voiceover. So please comment below with like questions or maybe even comments, like let me know what you're thinking, because designing something at this large of a scope, even with just these drawings and even with just an idea for a comic, that's a lot to deal with as one person. So, you know, talk about it. Let me know what you're going through. Let me know how you feel about these designs, and let me know anything, any questions that you have. And by no means am I an expert character designer. I did study it in college. I went to school for animation and I specialized in character design, and I'm kind of trying to make a career out of it, so this is why this is all happening. And I have just a very genuine love for dolls, fashion dolls in particular, and I feel like the two mesh very well. It's just that it's very overwhelming. So I totally get it if there's just a lot of hesitation. Some of it is just you have to have confidence to pitch your idea. Now, after getting down the basic sketch, like the outline of what the character is going to look like, I was very happy with it, by the way. I was very happy with how Shaina came out. After that, the struggle was real. I didn't know where to start with the color palette. Color palette is very important to me because in my world, each character has to have a distinctive color palette to differentiate from one another. And for her, it was really hard because I wanted like a cranberry red color at the beginning. I just thought it would be really cool. And then from there, I decided to pair it with, I think I keep it in, like a complementary evergreen color. And while I loved that color combination, I was getting Christmas. And I did not want Christmas, especially because all these characters have different cultures, and none of them celebrate a specific holiday, let alone a Catholic holiday, because these people are witches, remind you. These characters probably don't know what Christianity is in their world. So I wanted them to come from a place where it's non-denominational in the fact that religion, we don't really talk about it. But Christmas, yeah, I wasn't vibing with that. So you probably see me change it a couple times. I think I end up on like a really pretty fuchsia, dark, cranberry. I keep going to cranberry. It's more like a raspberry color. And teal green. So it's still complimentary, just a little more fun, you know? I just love these dark colors together, but they still have a pop to them when you put it with a neutral. And that's exactly what I decided to do with like the khaki color, just straight up black and white. This you can't go wrong with this color combination. It reminds me of Barney, but I vibe with it. I don't know. Another thing that I struggled with when creating these characters, and specifically this character, is what accessories did I want each doll to come with. And this is specifically tied to like their specialization in magic. So like what power do they love to focus on, and what do they study? What do they specialize in? I just call it specialization. And for her, it's a little tough because she specializes in everything. And I know that falls into the general trope of having, you know, the character be the jack of all trades. Now with her, she's not a jack of all trades, but in this world, in the magic world that she's in, she is able to master a lot of different specialties. And so what we call that is an eccentric witch. An eccentric witch is one that can hop from specialty to specialty, potions, plant witch, crystal witch, time travel, yada yada, you name it, she can probably figure out how to do it. And in this case, she has the very, very special power of foresight. Visually, there's not a lot of ways that you can get that across. So I just decided to focus on the eccentric part of her label. Basically, I just gave her a talisman book, a wand, some crystals attached to her waist, and some potions. I feel like that kind of gets across the fact that she kind of masters a lot of different things, and she has her hand in each pot. Like, she's doing a lot. She has a lot on her plate, but she loves to study, she loves to read, and she loves to learn. So I think that's like the best route for her, is that she's just gonna want to know more and more. She kind of reminds me of Bloom from Winx in the fact that she's always wanting to learn more and be the best that she can be. She's not gonna compare herself to anybody else, but she's gonna want to be the best version of herself. So I feel like being an eccentric witch works for her. And of course, she's not choosing this. This is just how she is. Like, she kind of lands into these situations where she has to learn new things, or she, by proxy of learning new things, gets into new adventures. So this is how she moves the plot forward. I wanted to get back to the power of foresight, like I mentioned earlier. And that's a very special power that not a lot of witches can master. She happens to be one of them who possesses this power. Not all witches can possess this power of foresight, but she is one. And she's the first one that we meet who has this power, because all of her friends, all the people she goes to school with, none of them know this power. She's like one of the only people that she knows who has this power. So she feels a little different, but she wants to learn all about it. Witches with the power of foresight can click between dimensions at will. So basically, if she wanted to be, you know, in her parents' dimension with her dad at home in Massachusetts, where she ends up before this whole story begins, she can choose to be there. If she wants to head over to Revera really quick, she just clicks right on over. And if she wants to go like on the other side of the space-time continuum, she can go, now I'm over here. So it's a very, very, it's a big measure of responsibility to have this power of foresight. And it's a big, big responsibility to learn how to use it properly without messing things up. And if anything, she is thorough. So Miss Girl has a lot on her plate to learn about this power of foresight. And for her broom, I decided to give her like the most rudimentary form of a broom that you can have, because she's still a baby witch. She's still figuring everything out. So she gets a rudimentary broom to go with that vibe. But I think it's still really cute. She still personalizes it with a little tiny belt buckle right there. Buckles are a big thing with her aesthetic too. Plaid. we keep going back to the preppy aesthetic, and I just think it all ties together very beautifully, especially with this color palette, which I'm still so in love with. And when posing these characters for their divination celebration forum, I wanted them to be riding the broom that they come with. And this is the first time that I've done a fashion illustration with such dynamic posing, and I'm obsessed. Like, I want to do it more and more. So yeah, like I said, these are like the box art versions of what I picture them to like come in the box pictured as. And I'm just very happy with how Shaina turned out. It came very natural for the divination celebration version. Like, after I got that basic version out of the way, this was like a no-brainer for me. The one thing with my fashion aesthetic that I tend to do a lot is asymmetry. And I feel like this one-armed suit jacket is a lot of fun. And I also love like the pirate ruffles on the left hand. I just think that's a whole lot of fun. And I feel like it adds a lot of whimsy to this line, which could be very basic if I just left it as like a regular 3-piece suit. Like, it really could have just gotten really basic, but I really love how this turned out. I feel like it's very unique to Shaina. One of the main draws for inspiration for this whole entire line is basically every other doll line that's come before them. Like, you'll see elements of Bratz, probably like in the makeup. You'll see elements of Barbie, definitely within like the bodily proportions. You'll definitely see a lot of inspo from like maybe even my scene with the fashion. It's just all derivative of doll lines, and I wanted to represent each factor from each doll line that makes them so unique. Inspirations from Monster High with character play. They were like the first doll line to introduce such differentiated characters within each other, and each one having a different personality from each other, and I wanted that too. So this is where story play and character play meets fashion play and hair play. Like, you'll get all of it, and I want that to be highlighted and obvious. So you'll see a lot of those inspirations when you're looking at me designing this character and this doll. And here's Shaina's basic version. I really love how she turned out. I feel like she's a really great first introduction, especially when it comes to doll lines. I feel like she kind of represents everything she's about. Here's little Puri, her little companion. She's so cute. She's a little demon, but we love her. And here's Shaina's divination celebration version. I feel like this is like the ultimate extravaganza version of Shaina, like the most glamorous version that we can get, you know? And I'm just so excited about it. I would love these for these to be real dolls. Like, I can't even say it. I'm just so excited about it. And there's nothing nailed down, of course, but, you know, one day we're dreaming about it, okay? And if you loved this design, please subscribe for more. I already told you there's more coming. Try and guess what kind of witch is coming next. If you already know, don't say it. But if you don't know, guess, please. And I will see y'all later. Subscribe and I'll subscribe back because I'm really cool like that. Bye!